voracious reader, and she had an incredible mind. For her birthday this past February, I gave her a copy of Go Set a Watchman, which she quickly read, only to discover she had never actually read To Kill a Mockingbird. I loaned her my copy. When Mom fell ill 3 weeks ago, I found the unfinished book with a bookmark in it, actually a picture of my lovely niece Megan, and I began to read. I'd like to share just a little bit of the passage she was on when she stopped reading. People in their right minds never take pride in their talents, said Miss Maudie. It struck me that that passage was a perfect line for a woman who quietly and efficiently changed the lives of the people she met in a profound way, but without ever bragging or blowing her own horn. You can read about some of Mom's accomplishments in your program today, but I want to share just a few stories about the woman my sister and I knew and loved. One of Mom's talents, and she shared this with my dad, was the gift of hospitality. As children, our friends knew they were always welcome to hang out at the house, and Mom usually had a snack ready to welcome us after a long day of playing outside. The birthday parties she threw were thoughtful and tailored to our interests. One of my favorites, and I was thinking about this when I was talking to Terry a few minutes ago, was a Little House on the Prairie party, where we all wore sunbonnets, played old-fashioned games, and had a fried chicken picnic. Another notable party was my sister's Cinderella Bash, complete with glass slipper games, treasure hunts, and dress-up bins, as well as the U.S. victory over Russia in the hockey game. There might have been princesses and hockey going on at the same time. As we grew older, Christy and I always knew we could bring our friends over, whether it was for pool parties, cast parties, New Year's Eve bashes, or just to hang out. And often we gave them very little notice. Miranda and Ellie, you might want to take note. I remember the time I decided to drop in on Mom and Dad with 21 friends en route for spring break. They might have been irked. If they were, they covered it really well. But they made everybody feel welcome, and they even fed us all pancakes. That habit hasn't changed as I've grown up and had my own children. Just last year, we brought the entire Schnoor clan down to my parents for a swim party and cookout after Nathan and Spencer's wedding. Another of my mom's talents was teaching. In my opinion, she displayed great courage when she left behind the world she knew in California in the 1960s to travel to Germany to teach. But perhaps even more bravery when she returned to the classroom in California while my dad was stationed in Vietnam. I truly wish I had known her during this period of her life. During her return to the classroom, my mom had a very diverse group of students. As she prepared to teach her class, she was given a sheet or a roster with each student's name and a corresponding IQ number. Marveling in her good fortune to have such intelligent students, she structured her teaching to push them to be creative, to excel, and to stretch themselves. A few weeks later, her principal stopped by to ask her about the success she was having with her class. "Why, it's easy," Mom said. "You gave me students with such high IQ numbers." There was a long pause, and the principal said, "Those weren't their IQ numbers. Those were their locker numbers." Because my mom looked at the possibilities and not the limitations, she was able to accomplish more than anybody expected with that group of students. I've held on to this lesson, which in part inspired my own entry into the world of education. Thanks to Mom, I truly believe that our children, both in the classroom and at home, are capable of dreaming and achieving big dreams if given the right opportunities. As a teacher, my mom was extraordinarily patient. She had high standards, and she believed in my dad, my sister, and me, pushing us all to achieve our goals. She's responsible for encouraging my dad, and probably quite a few of his friends, to complete their doctorates. She was one of my primary cheerleaders when I finished my own doctorate in education at the University of Virginia 11 years ago. And I'm sure Christy will say the same about Mom's belief in her while she was pursuing her degree in engineering from Georgia Tech. Mom was, and I believe still is, our biggest fan, holding us to high standards, listening to us until we were able to find solutions to our own troubles, and always offering the right word of reassurance and encouragement. Miranda alluded to this. You may not know this, but another of my mom's talents was writing. Every day when I was a child, she wrote a continuing saga for my lunchbox. Mom took the movie serials of the 1930s and 40s and turned them into edge-of-your-seat cliffhangers that made my lunch table a popular place to be in middle school. And that's no small feat. When I was in 6th grade, she mesmerized the entire lunchroom with the ongoing saga of my adventures with Indiana Jones. Together, we solved the mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke, rescued the crown jewels in London, and made a movie in Hollywood. I remember how meticulously Mom researched each aspect of the notes and how I would sometimes go sneaking around the house to try to find out where she hid the next week's installments, because I couldn't wait to find out what happened next. When my own girls were in school, Mom wrote them a series of lunchbox notes too. She hadn't lost her touch for creating storybook magic. Mom had a quiet talent for getting things done. She would step in and do the things that other people took for granted, whether it was shelving books at Ponderosa Elementary Library for 20 years, long after Christy and I had graduated, sewing costumes and finding props for numerous productions at the Fort Bragg Playhouse and the Cape Fear Regional Theater, or acting as the neighborhood taxi driver for all of our activities. She always planned ahead, and she thought about the small things that would make people happy. She was also a font of trivia. 2 years ago, during the Apple Blossom Parade, which in Winchester is a really big thing, I found myself texting my mom going, "Who is this celebrity? Who is this person?" And she would respond back telling me immediately who it was. She stayed current on things when I didn't, and a couple of weeks ago when she fell ill, the day after I had left, Dad called to tell me that there was a box that had arrived from Amazon. And in it was the musical book Hamilton, the Hamilton. She had bought it, and we figured it out. She got it for my birthday, which is in June. And there's a song in this musical, it's one of my favorite musicals, where George Washington sings about not running for a third term in office. And what he says is, "I want to talk about what I have learned, the hard-won wisdom I have earned. One last time, the people will hear from me one last time. And if we get this right, we're going to teach them how to say goodbye, you and I." For the 6 years that Mom waged her battle with cancer, she taught us a quiet lesson in bravery and how to say goodbye. She was positive and determined, fiercely loving her 4 granddaughters, and determined to make it to all of their key milestones. Over the last 6 years, while fighting her own battle for health, and with the extraordinarily loving care and partnership of my father, my parents completed their bucket list quest of visiting all 50 states. They made frequent trips to the beach. They attended their granddaughters' performances and special events in New York, Virginia, and Texas. They took cruises to Alaska, to the Canadian Maritime Provinces and the Caribbean, and they continued to socialize with their friends and be active in NOAA and Kiwanis. The Schnoor and Green families will always cherish the Disney cruise we took this past December to celebrate the beginning of Mom and Dad's 50th year together. We were so fortunate to be raised in their love and joy, and this trip will live on as a happy memory of the last time we were all together. Mom very seldom complained about her health, but she took a keen interest in the lives of those around her. When she died this past week, she did it on her own terms, saying, "I'm ready to go home." She is home now, in a much happier place, where all tears are dried, all joys restored, and all spirits refreshed. Mom had a genuine talent for giving love unselfishly. For 49 years, she was a rock and a partner for my father, and a confidant, cheerleader, and friend for my sister and me. The ache that won't go away is the desire to pick up the phone and call my mom just to talk about the day. Her passing leaves a hole in the hearts of many of us, and a challenge to love each other just a little more fully, and with increased mercy, compassion, and hope. If we can do that, we honor her memory and the love and life that graced this earth for 78 years. Since my mom was such a voracious reader, and instilled a love of reading into her daughters and granddaughters, as well as the hundreds of children who visited her at Ponderosa Library, I'm going to conclude with a quote that hangs up in my office at the Discovery Museum, one that makes me think of my mom every time I read it. It's from Kate DiCamillo's Newbery Award acceptance speech for The Tale of Despereaux. "This is the other great, good gift of stories that acknowledge the existence of darkness. Yes, the stories say, the darkness lies within you, and the darkness lies without. But look, you have choices. You can take action. You can, if you choose, go back into the dungeon of regret and fear. You can, even though there is every reason to despair, choose to hope. You can, in spite of so much hate, choose to love. You can acknowledge the wrong done to you and choose anyway to forgive. You can be very small as a mouse, and choose to act very big, like a knight in shining armor. Thank you, Ellie Jackson, for 78 years of love, of hope, of quiet action,